Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and I saw Spirit Untamed and it was not good. Before I start, I feel the need to mention that if you are going into this movie thinking it's a direct sequel to Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, you know, the good movie, uh, you are going to be very disappointed because it is not that. This is based off of the show on Netflix, which makes me question why this even got a theatrical release, which in turn is a spin-off of the good movie. With that in mind, let's continue talking about the DreamWorks movie Worse Than the Croods 2 and B movie, because again, while we're still not in Shrek the Third and Shark Tale territory, this film is still a very weak, safe, generic attempt at making a groundbreaking film from DreamWorks as of recently. But before we get to the nitty gritty, I do have a couple positive things to say about this movie. Easily the best thing about this movie is the relationship between the three main girls. They play off each other very well, they all have unique chemistry together, and the scenes with the three of them together were the only scenes that were the most heartfelt and the most hilarious. Another thing is that you can tell the film's heart is in the right place. It doesn't do anything offensive, it doesn't teach anything harmful for kids. It's just a movie that wants to empower young girls and tell them that their spirits can ride free as long as they got the courage in them. And that is definitely sweet, and I'm happy that this movie is able to do that in, albeit in a generic and basic way, but still I appreciate that the filmmakers weren't trying to solely make this a. And the last positive thing I can say about this movie is that the animation is passable. I can look at it. Some of the colors look pretty. The horses look nice. Characters, albeit a little cartoonish, look fine. But we'll get to the rest of it later on in the video. But now, let's get to the bad stuff. First off, the story is basic and generic as hell. This movie is basically just abominable, but worse. It's about three kids who need to help get the furry creature back to its family before the bad guys get to it first. And while that abominable was funny and heartfelt and really good, this movie decides to mix that plot with every cliche and trope you've seen in a movie where a girl rides a horse. This causes the movie to become tedious and boring to watch, as you pretty much know exactly what's going to happen from the get-go, as this movie does what literally every other film in this, I guess, genre now. Has there really been that many movies where a girl rides a horse? But anyway, this movie does literally everything you've seen in these types of movies a dozen times before. And while I admired the three girls together interacting with one another, on their own, and this goes for everyone else as well, they are one-dimensional and not all that interesting. While not hateable or unlikable, they're all just pretty much bland and uninteresting, as the movie doesn't really give you a whole lot to care about them or make them feel where they're coming from, outside of maybe the dad, and even he is just the typical overprotective father you've seen in dozens of movies before. And while I appreciated that the film's heart was in the right place and the film's message is generally sweet and touching, I wish the film didn't hammer it down my throat every 5 seconds, because you cannot go a single scene without one of these characters talking about, oh, you got a lot of spirit, or you have your mother's spirit, and find your passion, young one, and it just becomes tedious at a point. Like, okay, I get it. This is about finding your spirit with courage. I get that. Please stop hammering it down my throat. We get it. And lastly, I do have some issues with the animation. Again, it is watchable, and there are way worse looking animated movies than this one, but you can definitely see the cheapness in this movie, because, let me state this movie was outsourced by another studio, so obviously gave it a lower budget, and the team did the best they could with it. And again, it looks fine, it looks watchable, but you can definitely notice that this definitely shouldn't be in a theater. This looks more something like that should be on like the Disney Channel or even Netflix, because mainly it's based off of a TV show that was on Netflix. Colors are fine, the designs are fine, the backgrounds, the movements, the action sequences are fine, but this definitely shouldn't be in a theater. Heck, even Captain Underpants, which was a cheap movie and also outsourced, looks much more suited for the theatrical release and had a ton of style and creativity with its animation, where this just looks like a typical direct-to-DVD animated film. So all in all, guys, Spirit Untamed is another weak attempt from DreamWorks, unfortunately. While the film has some decent elements, like the film's heart is definitely in the right place, the dynamic between the three main girls, and the animation being passable, it cannot save this movie from being a dull, bland, generic film that treads on similar tropes and cliches we've seen done better in other films before itself. If you're a fan of the original Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, stick with that. If you're a fan of the show, stick with the show. If you're looking for a DreamWorks movie to stand out, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I think you should probably wait for The Boss Baby, because at least that film will be interesting in its absurdness, as this film is just generic, dull, bland, and plays it safe, and feels like your typical generic kids movie that I cannot say I recommend. And those were my thoughts on Spirit Untamed. What did you guys think of it if you've seen it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all of the social media links at the end. And until next time, guys, stay sharp.
What is it? What is it with girls and horses? She says, now when I was a young girl, they were my whole